Mother May I podcast. I'm your host, Whitney Johnson, and today we are talking about when motherhood gets hood. Okay, I'm gonna just start off with my own story because I need to let y'all know something. Like, I am not that chick. I'm not that mother who won't curse you out or who won't go off on your ass if you try some shit. I most likely will curse your ass out. Because I'm not there. I'm not at that point where I just can be like, oh, no, I ain't gonna curse you out. I ain't there yet. So, I created this episode because I know there are some moms who are like myself, who are with the shits. But there's a way for us to navigate through motherhood too, boo. Today's episode, matter of fact, let me just share this with y'all before we even get into all that, right? So I'm in the car, right? I'm driving with my kids. We're at Walmart. And I was just about to find this parking spot, right? It was kind of close to the front. And y'all know when you got kids, you need a parking spot that's close to the front and close to the carts. And it was one of those spots where I could literally take them out the car, put them directly in the cart, and we can go straight into the grocery store. I was like, yes, finally, I found a good parking spot, right? Mind you, while I'm getting ready to pull up to that parking spot, here come another car coming from the opposite direction, trying to take that same parking spot. So I looked at sis like, no ma'am, that's my spot. So sis, you gonna have to find you somewhere else, cause no. and I can remember specifically as I started inching closer to the spot, she actually went in and got the spot that I was trying to park in. And honey, I had my kids in the back seat and I took it back to the streets of Greenwood, South Carolina, when I used to be popping off on hoes and letting them know what time it is. Yo, I went the fuck off. Kids in the car and everything. I was like, no, the fuck you didn't, ho. I know you didn't take my, like, I'm going all the way off, right? And then I heard my son in the background. He was like, Mommy, you just need to use your words, and it's okay if you don't always get what you want. And I was like, the fuck? But that's when I realized that not only do my kids listen to me, but they're also watching me, right? And so these type of situations happen all the time through motherhood, especially if you are like myself, where you grew up when you had to be tough and you had to be, you know what I'm saying, with whatever when people try you, right? But think about that if you use that in your parenting, right? So your kids make you upset, and you instantly start going off, you popping off, you yelling, you doing this and doing that. First of all, if you're anything like me, you know when you're arguing with somebody, you're going back and forth with somebody, ain't no talking at some point. At some point, we ain't finna talk no more. We finna throw hands, right? But if you apply that same type of theory to your parenting, right? When you are arguing with somebody or yelling with somebody, the only person that you can hear is the person that's dominating the conversation. The other person probably don't know what the fuck to say. They don't know what to do. They just sitting there like, okay, right? And the same thing applies with our children. But when you think about that from the other perspective, like not just from the perspective of the person that's popping off, but from the person that is on the other end of that, right? So say for instance, somebody's popping off on you. You know they're bigger than you. You know they're older than you. You know that they're your parent. You know you have to listen to them. So if you were to say anything to them while they're yelling and in that moment, you know you're going to get an instant TKO. So a lot of times what our kids do, they just sit there, right? But when you just sit there in the midst of conflict and confusion, you eliminate the possibility for you to have a real conversation and figure out how to come up with a solution to the problem that you're having, right? Because one of the most important things that we can be teaching our kids right now is to be independent thinkers and know how to think rationally on their own. And part of that is being able to communicate your thoughts, your needs, and your feelings. But when we're having these heated arguments and we're talking and yelling at our kids, in those moments, they scared as hell to say something back to us because they are fearful of getting their ass beat, fearful of what you may do, and know for a fact that you are the ruler of the family. And if they try to question you about anything, it's game time. They already know that. And so what we're doing is we're actually silencing our children. We're teaching them to get in line. We're teaching them to obey. We're teaching them to do what you're told, right? But in all actuality, are those the only skills that people need in order to be successful and thriving human beings in life, right? Because if we all lived our life like that, think about even at your job, right? Your job can tell you, okay, we are having a staff meeting and it lasts for 2 hours. All you need to do is sit here, don't pull out your phone, listen to these presentations and be quiet. A lot of us gonna be looking around like, shit, I can't sit still for no damn 2 hours listening to you, bruh. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be picking out our phone. We're gonna be laughing with our friends, co-workers and everything because it's too hard to just sit there for 2 hours listening to a whole bunch of wah, 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 right? But when it comes to our children, that same principle still applies. Those same things still apply, right? We don't need to be teaching them how to get in line. We need to teach them how to communicate when somebody don't like something that they do, right? So if our kids realize that we don't like something that we did, that was done, and we are having those type of conversations, they need to be empowered, courageous, and confident enough to say, but mommy, blah, 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 blah. And ask questions and be curious and want to understand and know why the behavior was not okay. Because when we eliminate their possibility to say anything back to us because we fear them back talking, we are telling them that the only thing they need to do is get in line. Be quiet, do what I say, get in line, follow me. And those things are important. Don't get me wrong. It's important for your children to listen to you. But at the same time, we don't want to take away their ability to ask questions, to be curious, to learn how to communicate in the midst of objection, in the midst of conflict and confusion. Because even when conflict and confusion is happening, you still have to be able to talk to people. You still gonna be able to have a conversation. So one of the most powerful things that we can do as parents is teach our children how to have a conversation. And so when we feeling heated and we about to go off, instead of just going straight off, one of the most powerful things we can do in that moment is have conversation and avoid the yelling and all that from the get-go. Like, just be direct and say what it is that we're frustrated with. Say what we need in that moment. But a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Like, as parents, we don't even know what we need. We just know that we're frustrated, we irritated, we don't want the situation to be like it is, right? And because we can't even validate and communicate our own needs and what's really going on with us, we get frustrated that we can't verbalize it and there's nobody there to actually listen to our needs. So when our kids come around and they ask us questions or they're not doing something that we want them to do, we instantly go off. It's instantly game time, right? We're yelling, we're this and we're that. But I want to challenge you instead to take a different approach. And then when you're having those conflicts and those issues and your kids are getting on your nerves, instead of yelling, take a deep breath and really say what it is that you need. Like, really communicate what your needs are. I'm frustrated and I'm hungry and I need a break from y'all. Period. And when you say that to them, walk your happy ass up them steps into another room, whatever you got to do, get you a little snack and come back when you're revived and in a better mood. What's wrong with that? Nothing. You're communicating what you really need instead of going in a room and saying, didn't I tell y'all to clean this room up? You know, y'all know how we do. We're going in there, going off. But instead of just going off and being frustrated with them because you see a few crumbs on the floor, your real frustration is not the crumbs on the floor. Your real frustration is the fact that you didn't sleep good last night because you was arguing with the boy or your husband or your friend, whoever. You was arguing with somebody and you didn't sleep well last night. That's the real reason why you're going off this morning. So instead of doing all that with your kids, just be straight up and say, Mommy need a little break. We're going to take it slow today because Mommy's still tired. I had a rough night. Say that. Communicate your needs. Because what we're doing is we're teaching our kids that it's okay to have off days. It's okay to not always be on. It's okay to not be perfect. When you stop communicating with your children, what you're actually doing is you're teaching them that you don't have to ask people for help. Don't let anybody in. Don't ever share with them your real feelings, because if you really share them your real feelings, then what will happen? You teach them to not trust other people. You teach them to question their own thoughts and intentions, because they no longer feel like they have a safe space where they can actually verbalize those feelings and express them And so then they become adults who also don't know how to verbalize and express their feelings. And when things come up and things become challenging, they go back to those same patterns because they never learned how to deal with challenging emotions. And so when you feeling heated or frustrated, one of the best things that you can do is just tell them what it is and help guide them through that process. Because when you don't help them through that process, you're just repeating the same cycle over and over again of holding in your emotions, drowning out your feelings and ignoring them because it feels safe and it feels comfortable for you. But you're also not teaching them the skills they need to be productive human beings who know how to communicate with other people, even when the conversation is uncomfortable. And we also have to realize that uncomfortable conversations don't mean that they're bad conversations. They just need to be had. So just because the conversation is uncomfortable, that doesn't mean that you can't have the conversation. You still need to have the conversation. You still need to have the conversation, even when it's uncomfortable. But we have to lean into that discomfort. So many times we are hiding from the discomfort and placing it in this box because we are afraid of dealing with it and recognizing it and facing it head on. But these patterns are things that we are teaching our children to do the same thing. So then they become adults who don't know how to verbalize and tell you what they need from you. You know, they become adults who can't even come to you and say, Mommy, I need help with this and that. They probably won't say Mommy when they're adults. But you get what I'm saying? Like they feel like, they don't have a safe space. Nobody really understands. Nobody hears them. Nobody recognizes them or what they need. And so we avoid that by not just going straight into our pop off or yelling or going off. It's just straight up saying what you need. And then when you communicate those needs, put boundaries in place so that your children know that when things happen to you, you can choose to put boundaries in place to protect your peace and protect yourself. You're teaching them how to do it. And so one of the most powerful things that I say it all the time, but we have to stop feeling like we have to always avoid difficult emotions and never tap into the discomfort of having those challenging conversations with our kids, because we need to have them. They need to see you in challenging situations and learn how to navigate through them. They need to see you do that. Stop hiding that shit and acting like you don't have discomforts or rough days or things that, make you afraid or irritated or whatever. You have to show your emotions and show them how to get through them so that they can look at you and see the light. You are that light. And so when you just go into yelling and going off, you miss the opportunity to teach them how to do that. These are skills that they're going to have for the rest of their life. All the way up until adulthood, you need these skills. And so we can't sit back and ignore them, put them under the rug and act like they don't exist. No, we got to face this shit head on. And we have to teach the skills necessary to help them avoid getting into these situations when they become adults. So communication is everything. And dealing with challenging emotions is the priority. Don't shy away from those challenging emotions. Face them head on and explain to your children what you are feeling, because they understand. And if they don't understand right away, that's when boundaries come in place. That's when you continue the conversation. That's when you continue to show and share more about emotions so that they can understand the different emotions that people experience. And they can understand and sympathize with you and why you feel the way that you do. But this is the work that a lot of times we don't do in parenting because we're so used to going straight to yelling. It's our comfort zone. It's what we're used to. It's what we've seen all our lives. But is it the most productive thing that will put our children in a position to be confident people who rely on their own ways of thinking and know and understand how to navigate through life without feeling judged or critiqued by what other people say or think of them? Will that help them do that? If every time you get upset, you yelling and they don't have an opportunity to communicate with you or share with you how those emotions made them feel or understand why you felt the way that you feel, is that going to prepare them for what they need later on down the line? Absolutely not. Don't hide behind these conversations. Let's bring them to the forefront. Let's be okay with expressing challenging emotions, and let's offer a different type of support between our children and ourselves, because motherhood does not have to feel like that. And this is how we create the safe space between us and our children. All right? Okay. So ain't no hood like motherhood. We know that. We get that. But there are ways that we can use some of the experiences that we had in childhood to be better, to grow. So that was this week's episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure you join the Motherhood Circle. We had a juicy conversation last week and it was really good. But make sure y'all join the Motherhood Circle. We always in there chatting. I also share tactics and tips that I know will help you guys through motherhood. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely join the Motherhood Circle, and I will see y'all in there. See y'all next week for another episode of the Mother May I podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, y'all.